Yo, 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 yo. My name is James School. I am the owner of PaterTFS.com, and today we will not be doing a slate talk. I need to make Margaret create more graphics for me. But we are going to be talking about some betting results so far for the first full month of usage of the Tails marketplace for OddsShopper. This is going to be going over some process stuff, going over results, going over where things have been strong, where things have been weak, some adjustments that we have already made, some adjustments that we want to make moving forward, the whole gambit of things. Also, we'll be talking a little bit about the OddsShopper platform and some things that I think are very cool and some things that I wish they would do a little bit better, because I think that it's worth saying. Those guys over there do a good job, and while I have not gotten to talk with their developers too much so far, I do want to try to do that a little bit more in the future. So I'm going to be bothering them here pretty soon. But all that said, what's up? Hope everybody's doing good today, having a good time. It is fucking cold here in Tennessee. When I woke up this morning, it was 6 degrees outside. When I left the house this morning to go get donuts, because every Wednesday is donut day here in this household, I left the house to go get donuts. It was 9 degrees. Now, to be fair, 6 degrees and 9 degrees, I mean, it's objectively cold for sure, but like, I'm from Colorado. Cold doesn't really bother me all that much. However, cold with humidity bothers me. Humidity makes everything worse. Cold with humidity bothers me. So in Colorado, you walk out in the 6 degree weather or whatever, 9 degree, 15 degree, whatever. You walk out in a cold weather, and it's cold, but you can kind of, you can work past it if you want to by just, you put on a coat or whatever, and it's not that bad, because the humidity doesn't make it stick to your skin. It just kind of bounces off your skin. In Tennessee, however, and anywhere that experiences humidity, when it gets fucking cold, man, it gets cold, because it's like you're walking into a sheet of really tiny water particles that are just fucking frigid. It's like taking an ice bath when you walk outside. It's disgusting. And same thing with heat, by the way. When it's hot and you walk outside in Tennessee, like 95 degrees, not that bad in Colorado. Not that bad when there's no humidity. In Tennessee or North Carolina, South Carolina, anywhere where there's like real humidity, when it gets hot, it's fucking brutal, dude. It's like sitting in a sauna. It's disgusting. Anyway, it's cold here in Tennessee, and I would like to have it stop being so brutally cold. The other thing that is cold is our streak. See, moved it into that. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the results so far here in a second, but I also wanted to just kind of like show what the OddsShopper stuff looks like for those of you who have not viewed it. So I need to go grab it here. All right. And obviously, if you guys have questions, feel free to, put them up in the chat. I'm watching the chat as well. I'm self-hosting, so all of those things. Oh, that looks very funny. Okay. Anyway, so here is the OddsShopper. This is what I use to put in the bets. This is their odds screen, and this is where you're going to be able to get, all the odds for anything, that you can see that is out there in the marketplace. And all you do is you just click on it, and then it'll take you to that bet on that site, and then you can put in the bet. And it's a good system. Like I think it's fine. It's cool that you can also sort out different sports books, different edge books. Like I only put in the books that I use. But if you wanted to put in, a whole bunch of different books there, then you can have access to all of them, whatever books you have access to. It is nice and it is workable. I think that this system works better for people who are just wanting to use the OddsShopper edges. Like if I just wanted to say, show me the top edge, right? Like how's it sorted by right now? Sort by edge, high to low. So here, if you just wanted to do this and take like Case and Wallace under 3.5 rebounds, 1.7% edge, like you could just do that. And I'm pretty sure that's what Greg Ehrenberg does. Except he has his portfolio betting stuff that like is tuned based on historical stuff and based on, you know, what the edges that they show. And you could just do that. But for somebody like me and for Paydirt, we use it as a way of saying, okay, we have just ran like the first thing we do is we go to, you know, the betting models for whatever sport that we want to run. Go to stat specific sims, and then we run this. And for the sake of time, I am only going to run DraftKings here. But you know, we run through all the books and we run all of the different prop categories for all the different books. And then we take that out and we throw it into a workbook that I made, that I created for the team. And we parse out the bets that are, you know, 15% or greater edge for NBA or 10% or greater edge for NHL. And what that does for us is then we are looking for these specific bets. So, okay, Walker Kessler game player points, right? His mean is 10, the prop's 8.5. You have 16% edge. So we have to go over here and say, okay, that is player points. So here's points. Let's find Walker Kessler. And then, okay, so, you know, OddsShopper obviously doesn't like this bet, right? Like their models don't like this bet. It's negative 6.3% edge. But we like it over at Paydirt, so we're going to take it. The hard part with this is that there's really no way to do this in an automated fashion. So one of the things that I wish that OddsShopper would do a little bit better about, and I have talked about that. I've talked to them about this in the initial meetings that we had with the Tails Marketplace, is like, I wish that you would just be able to import through an API feed. If you're a creator, if you're a partner on the Tails Marketplace, I wish there was a way to import my projections or even just upload a CSV that has like, here are the bets, here's the edge that I have calculated, show me all of those things, you know, on the book, just show me all of these bets, right? Because if we could do that, then it would save massive amounts of time for any kind of super user like me, who I have a process. I have betting models that I want to use. I don't necessarily want to use OddsShopper's betting models. So give me a way, or other super users a way, to say, here's a CSV of all of the bets that I want to put in. Compile those for me, get me all the links, and then just let me go and batch out that set of bets. I think that there are ways that they could achieve it relatively easily. You know, obviously, I don't think that it is the easiest thing in the world to do any of that kind of stuff. But if what they are doing is compiling bets based on X, Y, or Z using the portfolio betting stuff, they should be able to compile bets based on an API feed or a CSV upload. I don't think that it would be all that difficult. Otherwise, I think this is a really cool service. I think they do a really, really good job. There are some other things that I think they should add in. I think they should add in some hedging stuff. Picket has that. They have some live hedging tools, but I think that OddsShopper would do a really good job in connecting that. And obviously, there's some other things that I think that they could do a little bit better of. But so far, I've been really happy with the service. Speaking of the service, so let's take a look at the service for Paydirt. So let's take a look at the profit graph here, which is hilarious. So we went, we're okay, and then jump up, downswing, jump up, and then jump up, and then we have treading water for the most part, and then we have a bad NBA day, which is basically this, and then we climb up a little bit, climb up a bit, some good days, and then we have an NFL championship weekend, right? Where NHL or NFL just fucking murdered us last week. And it wasn't even based on like being way off. It was like we had under 3.5 receptions for Isaiah Likely and Rashad Bateman. They both hit 4. We had under 8.5 rushing attempts for Josh Allen. He had 10 for 20 yards which is dumb as shit. We had, let's see, we had another one. I think that it was like receiving yards. I think that we ended up like on the negative side of receiving yards by like 2 yards or something. We had under for passing attempts for Jordan Love, under 32.5. He ended up at 33. We had under 20. Oh, no. It was under 42.5 rushing yards for Josh Allen. He ended up 43. It was just like we just got fucked by these like small incremental things, and they all added up, right? So NFL just crushed us last week. But overall, things have been positive, right? So I mean, I'll zoom in here a little bit. So overall, as we're looking at things, NBA is up about 17 units. We do $100 units here, 4.5 or 4.57% ROI. NHL is down about 10 units. We'll talk about NHL here in a second, about 3.676% ROI. And NFL is down 4.46% ROI. Now, NFL, we had a good betting season for NFL overall. I think NFL, we finished up 19% or something like that in season, but that was before we started with the odds marketplace, right? So actually, I can go find really quick. Let me go find the results of that really quick, because I'm pretty sure we have it in NBA. Newsletter bets. Okay. Anyway, so many different screens that I could use here. This one? Yeah. Okay. Sure. Fine. That's fine. So this is overall, right, for the breadcrumbs bets, which is essentially the same thing that we were doing here. NFL was up 14% in season. We had pretty strong volume, about 4,000. We profited $635. NBA, we were solid, 17%. Again, this was earlier in the season. And MLB, we returned across the entirety of the season around 5% ROI. Breadcrumbs looking really, really solid. So then we took about a month off, and then we came back to Tails Marketplace because we wanted to continue to do these kinds of things, right? I know that the models are strong over at PayDirt, so I wanted to make sure that we could utilize them to the best of their ability. Now, getting back to recent results, at which case I will find the correct thing. So recent results over the last week, NHL is down about 0.31%. It is neutral. NBA is up about 2.54%, around 1 unit or so over the last week. And NFL just fucking murdered us, right? Which is a huge bummer. Negative 30% ROI. Life is hard. Still, over the last month, we have $467 profit, 4.67 units, which is okay. It's a 1% ROI. We want to be able to push that up. That being said, over the course of the year, if we were able to maintain, 4.5 units every single month, I think we would be happy. We'd end up somewhere around 50 units up over the course of the year, which if you're playing with a $100 unit, you end up $5,000. That's a nice vacation for your family. I don't think that's too bad. Now, we would like to see this somewhere in like the 10 to 12% or the 10 to 12 unit range in terms of positives. We'd love to see a 5% ROI. I think that we will get there. But we did get hit a little bit. If you remove, for instance, is this counting? Let's see. Yeah, so if you zero out NFL, we end up, up. Instead of minus 359, we're at like 9 units. That feels much better. We can't just ignore those things, but it would be really nice if NFL didn't just completely fuck us. One of the things that we have done, though, is improve NHL. And I wanted to talk through that a little bit because, yeah, we're down about $1,000 in NHL over 263 bets. That doesn't feel great, but we have made improvements. So let's go over and take a look a little bit at the types of improvements that have been made here. So this is a running calculation of all the bets that we have put in so far. We have, passing yards, we have shots on goal. We have all this different kind of stuff. And we're showing and monitoring where our largest weak points are. One of the things that we identified pretty quickly was that betting points in NHL, just can't fucking do it. One of the reasons why we cannot do it, and one of the reasons why it was so negative, is because the way that the books put out lines, you could only ever take overs. And taking overs on something as volatile as points is a losing proposition for the most part. We just ended up in this point where it's like, all right, well, the models are fine. The models are good. We know that the models for NHL are strong. For DFS, we know that translates relatively well over into the betting markets. You do have to do some tweaking between DFS and the betting markets, but we know that the NHL models are good. So what is happening here with points? And what it came down to is when we were looking at the backlog of bets that we've put in, it was literally all overs. We weren't able to take any unders. So we were just getting murdered with points. So we stopped taking them. You can see that we just have not taken any points bets in the last week. I think that we cut them off about 2 weeks ago, and that has been a notably positive improvement for NHL. Another thing for NHL is shots on goal. So over the longer term, since the beginning, oh wow, that sucks. Over the longer term, we're down $503 with a negative 12% ROI return. However, over the last week, with pretty decent volume, we are up 13%. We have a positive 13% ROI. We have 1.29 return in terms of units, so 1.2 units returned, just about 1.3. And that has come from a couple different things. So one, we adjusted the way that NHL returns bets. Right. So we adjusted the way that it calculates out the edge for bets specifically to NHL. I did make that change as well to NBA very recently. That should go into place probably tomorrow. But the change that we made was basically looking more and taking more into account the current median projection versus the recent performance. It was too heavily skewed towards recent performance and not heavily skewed enough towards the current median projection. So we made that adjustment. That has been very good. Shots on goal now has a positive return ROI, which feels very nice. And then we have, let's see, assists for NHL. So assists have been good across the board for NHL for the most part. 8% return ROI on assists. We are down currently this last week on 25 bets, down about 6%. But over the long term, we should expect that to come back up. The nice thing about assists is we do get access to both overs and unders. And that's one of the reasons why, even if it was a little bit negative, we would still keep hitting them, because I know that we can look at it in a way of saying, all right, well, this is not, the books are not offering lines that we can't beat. This is just, we've had some variance, and this is a super variant type of bet to be taking. The other issue with assists NHL, though, and this is something worth addressing, is that, like, you really can only hit large favorite lines. So for the most part, for assists in NHL, there's like 5 guys that we end up hitting assist bets for, and usually it's like negative 200 or better. Now, to be fair, there is still edge on those bets. Those guys who we are hitting consistently, the edge is still there, and they have like a 9% hit rate or something like that on overs. So we know that the edge is still there. We're going to continue to hit them, but it also does feel kind of bad to be putting in the same guys consistently and having a consistent return of like, $7 on a quarter unit bet. We'll talk about unit sizing here in a second, but assists for NHL, while it is negative, you can see, negative 6% return for assist bets is nothing compared to a positive 6% or 10% return or something like that for something NBA oriented where the unit sizes are larger. So overall, one more change that I am instituting today for NHL is for a little bit better designation of recent sample versus long sample. So in the models, the way that things have been going is it's been considering full season more than recent season by a considerable amount. So I wanted to kind of tweak that a little bit and pull recent sample a little bit more into the fold. I like using recent sample for most models, especially for things like MLB, NHL, esports, stuff like that, where things can change pretty drastically in short terms. But I was not doing that as heavily for NHL. So I think that will improve some things. I think it'll improve things for shots on goal. I think it'll improve things for blocked shots, which, by the way, we got murdered in blocked shots the last like 3 days or something like that. This, I think, will turn around pretty quickly. We only have 21 bets on that overall. 13 of them have come in the last week. So this one is worth monitoring. For sure, if this one stays in the negative 20% range or something like that, then we'll have to review it. But the point of all of this is that we are consistently reviewing and looking at these things and trying to find trends that I know with my time in the industry lead to you need to pay attention to this. So let's talk about NBA here for a sec. NBA is positive over the last week. It is very positive over the course of last month. Last month, we're up about 17 units in NBA, which feels great. We are on a bit of a downswing for sure. The last week has been okay, but we have gotten our asses kicked a couple days. I think like 4 days ago, we were down 4 units maybe in NBA. We just got fucking railed, which sucks. But also, I don't really care that much about that when we're still up 17 units over the last month. Like, you're going to have upswings and downswings. For the most part, you're going to expect your results graph to look something like this, where you kind of tread water for a little while, and then you have a really, really good couple days. And then you tread water, and then you have a really good couple days. And what you would hope is you tread water here, and then you have a really good couple days instead of having 2 really negative days, right? Like if either one of these was a positive day, we're looking really, really good. We're in the plus 15 unit range or something like that. But NBA has been really good. There have been a couple underperformers that I think are worth mentioning, though. So one of the things that I have made an adjustment on very recently has been points. So points has been negative 11% over the last month, down about $300 or so. But recently, in the 4 times we've tried to hit points bets, we've just been getting killed on it. Negative 33% ROI. And the reason for that, for the most part, has been outlier games. But they're outlier games that have been mostly influenced by injuries around the outliers. So, we had a Gafford one, which was he had a career game. We had a Davion Mitchell game where he scored like more points in the first quarter than he had scored in entire games in the last like 5 games. But that was brought on by an injury. It was the Hawks game where the Hawks like sat all their players. I don't remember who it was that we had there, but we had unders on them and they crushed obviously because they sat the rest of the fucking team. But points I have been looking at, and this recent trend, I'm not as concerned with this. Like, I think we've had some variance, we've had some injury stuff. But this one, I kind of wanted to do some different work regarding the split between 2-point and 3-point projections and the way that I'm handling kind of like the top-down merging with the model. I do utilize some top-down logic with the way that I project out points and rebounds and assists and stuff, where I'm taking into account the Vegas line and I'm trying to kind of merge it with where the model is at from a bottoms-up standpoint. And one of the things that has done has been really good at keeping things honest, but I also have not been paying enough attention to the split between 2-point shots and 3-point shots in that. So I implemented a split of that where now they are interacting individually rather than together. So I think that is going to help with points. I don't think that it is going to be a massive shift, but I do think that it is something worth noting. The big one that is killing us for NBA right now is game totals, where negative 33% over the course of the month. That sucks, but negative 62%, like we basically have missed every single game total. Not every single game total, 2/3. And so with that one, the game totals for NBA I had thought would be stronger. They're not. There's a lot of kind of weirdness that happens, and I just don't think that I should probably be offering that one anymore, even though I do think that there is probably some edge in certain instances. And I think that if we were to lean into the entire sample rather than just like the strongest samples, it would smooth things out a little bit. But when I look at something like this, where it's like, okay, it's very negative over long term and it's getting its ass kicked in the recent term, like those kind of things, like, can it turn around? Sure. But when you look at something like this is basically what we had with points. And so I want to be able to nip this kind of stuff in the bud and take these out of rotation and then review a little bit more before we offer back in. So moving forward, we're not going to do game totals in NBA anymore. They're just not consistent enough. Even though the money line and the spread models have been strong, game total models just have not been strong. And you may be asking yourself, James, why don't you offer game total or why don't you offer spreads and money lines? And the reason for that is that while there is edge, it is super minuscule. MD12 in the Discord, he ended up doing an analysis of the pay dirt lines versus closing lines. And while we did have a positive edge, it was like 1% or some shit. And I'm not in the business of offering 1% edges. I just think that that's kind of a waste of everybody's time. And if you ever have a downswing, like, it's just going to kill your percentages, like what we have seen with game totals here. Game totals by themselves have contributed to the loss of about 3 units. If we didn't do any game totals at all for NBA, we'd be up 20 units in NBA. And overall, our total return would be about 8. If we didn't do game totals or NFL, like we'd be up like, 14 units or something like that at this point, which is where we would like to be for a month. If we can average about half a unit of positive ROI per week, I'm going to be happy with that. So I think that that's pretty much everything overall from a review standpoint. Like, threes have been really good to us. Points, assists have been great to us. Obviously, 20%, 20%, 18% for assists in NBA, 13% for rebounds. There's just a couple things that we need to continue to clean up. But overall, it has been strong. I've really enjoyed this process. I've really enjoyed kind of putting things together and honing this. Something that I've wanted to do with pay dirt is have a better betting product overall. And I know that's where the market is going. So I wanted to get these things kind of like tied in. One of the other things that we don't do is like SGPs. And the reason for that is it's just kind of hard for me to think about SGPs. I just don't like them, I guess. But we need more upside. We're not hitting enough plus money bets, which kind of unlocks a lot of upside. So I would like to do more SGPs. I'd like to do some more parlays. I'd like to do some more plus money ceiling type stuff where if everything goes right, we don't just have an okay day, we have a great day. But I just think that it's more important to nail down the framework and the bones of the structure, making sure that the bets that we're hitting are bets that are strong, and making sure that as we add them into SGPs and parlays, that the groundwork is strong to manage that kind of upwards trajectory for trying to build a higher ceiling. So I just wanted to go over this and kind of talk through this a little bit. I also wanted, I was going to talk about, what's the other thing I was going to talk about? Oh yeah, unit sizing. Okay, so I will pull up the file that we use here. So you can hide this. All right. So one of the things that we do when it comes to putting together this stuff, and this is the file that I created for the team to be able to use to post bet. One of the things that we have to be reticent of is unit sizing. So there's a lot of different ways to do unit sizing. You can do Kelly criterion, which is a percentage of your bankroll so that you never go broke. I think Kelly criterion is great, but I also think the Kelly criterion is kind of how do I put this? Overkill for general bettors, like if you have a bankroll of $500, Keller Criterion is kind of overkill for what you're trying to do. You still need to build your bankroll. You really don't care that much about going broke with a $500 bankroll because it doesn't supplement your life, right? So if you have a $500 bankroll or even a $1,000 bankroll, or if you're even under like $5,000 in bankroll or something like that, I think the Keller Criterion is kind of overkill for the purposes of what you are trying to do with your bankroll. So what we do is we do a bankroll based on volatility. So here for NBA, typically we're going to have max unit sizes of over 1 or of 1. The units are going to be broken up based on the edge. So for the max unit can be at most 1. I don't think that anybody should ever be doing like 2 or 5 or 10 unit bets. That's fucking stupid. If anybody ever tells you to put 5 units on something, don't listen to them. They're not serious. They are probably a grifter. There's a company that does this a lot, and I have my thoughts on them. If you ever put more than 2 units on anything, like that's the most that you would ever consider putting on anything ever. Never put 5 units, 10 units on anything. Anybody who tells you to do that doesn't care about you. So we max at 1 unit here at PayDirt. I think that's a fair conservative strategy. And that is based on the prop type. So based on the volatility of the prop. So you can see in this formula up here, if the prop is less than 1, then the max unit size is 0.25. Any prop that is like 0.5, touchdowns, assists in NHL, blocks or steals, like these are super volatile props. So I don't ever think that you should assign more than 0.25 units or a quarter unit, something like that. Once we get into the 2 to 3 range, or the 1 to 3 range, so if the unit is between, or if the prop's between 1 and 3, then the max unit size can be half a unit. So, these are things like rebounds props or assist props or, receptions props. We can do that for NFL, right? When we get into MLB, total bases props, stuff like that. We can assign a half unit to that. That's fine. And then anything over 3 is where we can assign a full unit to it. And the reason for this, specifically from a distributional standpoint, is that anything that is looking at a prop of less than 3 is managed with a Poisson distribution, and anything with a prop that is higher than 3 is managed with a normal distribution. This extends out actually in the back-end math, where actually anything up to 10 is a mix of a Poisson and a normal distribution. But for the purposes of bet sizing, we use a normal distribution for anything above a prop of 3. And that's because this is where you start running into things like points in NBA, rushing yards, receiving yards, stuff like that, where we use normal distributions typically with a tail added on it. It's usually a truncated distribution, where we end up utilizing things that can be measured by normal distributions. So that's where the max unit comes in. And then the unit size we're actually looking at is based on the edge. So anything that is between a 10 and 15% edge ends up being a 0.5 unit if available. Anything between 10 and 15% is a quarter unit. Anything between 15 and 20% edge is a half unit. Anything of 20% edge or greater can be a full unit. So that's the way that we end up doing our unit sizing. And that's really important because we know, say with assists, right? One sec. Hiding something on the screen really quick. And then going back. Okay, so this is the bet sheet for today for PayDirt. And we know that things like assists, right? Like these have a max unit of 0.25, and that's just the unit that we're going to give to them. Even if this edge was 25%, even if it was 50%, we would assign a quarter unit. And the reason why is because it's super volatile. And I don't want to assign a lot of bankroll to that. But when these things miss because they're volatile, we only have a quarter unit on them. They're not going to kill us. This Chris Dunn prop, the under on 16.5 PRA for Chris Dunn, is worth as much as nearly every single NHL bet that we put up today. Like this individual prop is worth as much as the entirety of the NHL props that we put out, because Ivan Provorov shows up in every single NHL props for some reason. I don't know why. It's a bug, but it doesn't hurt anyone, so I don't fucking care. All of our NHL action is worth as much as Chris Dunn having under 16.5 PRA. So like these things, we have a lot more confidence in something like this, where we have a normally distributed prop. We know the edge is strong on this. We know the trending under has been really, really strong, 97% confidence. Like this prop is something that we have a lot more confidence in putting a single unit on than any of the NHL action that we have. So that's one of the things that helps us smooth out, and one of the reasons why when we go and take a look at this graph, like even if we're having a bad stretch of a couple days, right? Like we're only trading $50 here because our bet unit sizing is right. Like even if we have bad days, and then when we have good days where even the small stuff hits, and then we end up having, you know, our full unit bets also hit, that's where we end up having these really big jumps. And that's also, by the way, where parlays and SGPs come into place, is like we need to be maximizing that even farther, or we need to be taking, like, if we know that we have 2 full unit bets, right, that could completely tank our day, we need to be putting together a parlay of like a quarter unit of, if both of those things go wrong, here's a quarter unit to cover our asses a little bit. Here's a little bit of a hedge, because that hedging is really, really important, especially as you're doing across books. You know, if we have a full unit under on Chris Dunn today on DraftKings and a full unit under on, you know, I don't know, Malik Monk assists or something, right? Like I know that we like the over on his 5.5 assists, and we have a full unit on that at FanDuel, like we can make sure on either one of those sites, we can put together a parlay that says if both of those things are wrong, then put together a small hedge so that we can cover our asses a little bit, right? Like it takes away a little bit of the upside, but not near as much of the downside, right? Like it allows us to kind of cover our ass on that so that we don't have days like this, right? Like we want to try to avoid days like this going forward. So that's mostly what we're going to be trying to utilize parlays and SGPs for, is to avoid these massive negatives and also shoot up these a little bit. You know, like we want a little bit more big upside days. It just helps. It helps the tail outcomes, right? That's what we want to try to do. So anyway, I think that's pretty much everything. This has been a really fun thing to do. I've enjoyed it. We are up 4.67 units right now. I hope that we can have a plus 15 unit month, you know, moving forward this next month. I think that'd be great. When we get an MLB, we're probably going to be focused almost entirely on MLB, and that's going to be the only thing that we run through for bets. Actually, what other sports do we have during MLB? There are PGA models. I've been trying to figure out the best way to manage those for placement bets and threshold bets and stuff like that. So maybe we'll be able to include that during NBA season or during MLB season. But overall, this has been fun. I hope that anybody who has wanted to check things out has gotten a subscription over there. If you haven't, there's a code to get 33% off. There's also a code for PayDirt subscribers to where you can get it for $14 a month rather than $40. You can DM me about that. But yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. It all comes from PayDirt. It all comes from the models. Like I said, it all comes from the betting models on the site utilizing the stat-specific sims. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy it. If you guys have any questions for me, please reach out. You can join the Discord by going to the members and going to Discord. It's free to join. You can go to the About Us and see what we're about. But yeah, just join the site today. The site is very smooth. Thank you. We're doing a site audit here pretty soon as well to make it even smoother and maybe make a mobile app. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where things go. But thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the support. If you need me, reach out to me. Never hesitate on that kind of stuff. And let's continue to build on all the success we have. Thanks a lot.